Hey guys, this is Levergun Bum. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, welcome back. If you're a return viewer, due to popular demand based on a preview video I released for this little carbine, the Winchester Model 1894, chambered in .45 Colt, back in November of 2024, with original footage shot in March 2024, a little over a year ago, I decided to go ahead and put together a full-length review on this little carbine. I purchased this gun back in 2005 for about $1,000 less than what they're going for now on Gunbroker. I assume that's a pretty steady price anymore because Winchesters are no longer manufactured by the Olin Corporation here in the United States, and these little trappers are super cool. You're going to see a lot of footage today detailing what I've done to this gun, up to and including all sorts of accoutrements and add-ons. This rifle has served me well over the last few years working and living on ranches in the western United States, where it's done its turn in putting down varmints and other little critters, and was supposed to serve on a couple hunts that I never got to due to wildfire. But anyway, I'm going to go over it today, and I hope you enjoy the video.
For today's video, I'm shooting my preferred mix of IMR 700X powder, Missouri Bullet Company Cowboy number 8. These are 452 diameter round nose flat point bullets with a proprietary coating that it's quite nice. I'll try to demo that in the video, and we're going to be shooting that today at 25, 50 and maybe 100 yards. For those who don't know, or maybe new to lever gunning, and those who've been in the game for a while, it can be cost prohibitive to shoot factory ammunition out of these guns, particularly cowboy rounds anymore, and the 357, 44 Magnum, 45 Colt, whatever else is out there, the older stuff, certainly 4570 if I hadn't made mention. You're gonna wanna probably get into reloading, hand loading your rounds, which is what I do, and this is a preferred blend that I like to use for shooting here on the ranch, just for plinking. It's great stuff. Those of you returning to the channel will recognize the California B27 CCW target to the right, and then some AR-500 steel on the High Wild stand to the left. And we'll be shooting at that today from the 25, 50, and 100. So maybe if you're new to lever guns, getting into lever guns, sights on lever guns are a little bit of a controversial issue, particularly when optics come into play, notably scopes. A lot of discussion about scope versus no scope. I think it's entirely subjective. I think it's what works for you. I will say in my case, I am partial to an old-fashioned look, well, a modern old-fashioned look on lever guns. I don't like the recent trend of tactical lever guns and Picatinny rails on lever guns and M-locks on lever guns, because I think it destroys the aesthetic. There are limitations to these lever guns because of the nature of their mechanism, their fundamental lack of accuracy, perhaps beyond 150 yards or maybe 200 yards. And of course, there's variables in all of that. But I am running a pair of Skinner sights here, and this is the Skinner 94 Angle Eject you see on the rear sight. I'm running a Guide Series front sight that's been blued and painted by me. We'll get up close shortly, take a look at that. And I'm running two different aperture sets on here. I believe a 0.7 inch and a 0.096 inch. I think that's what I'm running today. So one sort of small and one maybe smaller. That dovetail, that traditional buckhorn, has been replaced with a dovetail sight blank, what Skinner calls a sight blank, and an aperture storage hole, and we'll take a look at that momentarily. Okay guys, I'm running some limited technology. After all, my funds have to go in the lever guns, not the newest, greatest, latest camera, smartphone, blah, blah, blah. So we're looking over the barrel here. We're at about 15 yards to that paper target, and this is what we're looking at here. I'm not sure what the aperture is on this particular sight, and I'm unable to tell with the sunlight and the ambient conditions if you guys can see that front orange sight through there, but this is basically what your Skinner sight's gonna look like looking from behind the gun. Got a detail on that front guide sight that I've gone ahead and painted orange. Replacement for your buckhorn sight, again manufactured by Skinner. So I hope that helps you make a decision maybe if this is something you're interested in. I could go either way, especially inside of 100 yards, certainly inside of 50 yards. I'm a little bit torn. Buckhorns are just so intuitive to use and easy to use. Got some stories about some of the other rifles I have that wear these Skinner sights, these peep sights, particularly on my Marlins, and I haven't always had great results using them, but the craftsmanship is outstanding. Okay guys, I think for today's vid, it's gonna be a few shots from the 25 to 50, and for shits and giggles, I'll try the 100 yard mark, start loading this thing up and have some fun. Okay, haven't cracked this bad boy out in a year. The original video for this, the preview for this little carbine was made in about March of 2024, about 1 year ago. So don't give me too much flack if this is horrific. It's all in good fun. Okay guys, so right off the bat at 25 yards, reticle's too big. So I'm gonna go ahead and exchange the reticles here. I'm gonna pull the reticle off my Skinner rear sight, grab the smaller reticle, and I'm trying to not drop this in the grass because I'll never find it again. But we're gonna screw in this little reticle. I don't know if we can get a detail here. Devil's in the details, folks. I'm gonna pop this other one in my mouth. Okay, tiny reticle there. And we're gonna store the larger reticle. I don't know if you guys can make that out. Terrible photography today with the sun in the face of the late winter, early spring here. Oh, the cursing that will occur off camera. Okay, I'm gonna shoot some paper first. There it is, everybody. Angle Eject Winchester, model 1894, 45 Long Colt, circa 1980 something. Dud. Well, these have been sitting around for a while. Okay. We'll go up later. I'm going to go for some steel now. I had a batch of bad Winchester primers get in the mix of my primer collection last time I loaded these rounds up. So I'm attributing bad primer to that failure to fire. 3 rounds. We'll go up and look later all over the place. I'm going to shoot for steel now. I had a really hard time looking out this tiny reticle. I'm going to call this the .096. I think that's what Skinner calls it, almost 9/100ths of an inch. Tiny, but right now I can see the steel easier than I can see the paper. I'm gonna go top off here and then we'll try for that steel. Whoops. I'll live with that. Okay, guys, so first course of fire, I had a failure to fire the first shot, which was a primer issue. I had a bad batch of primers years ago. First set of shots here is rather atrocious, and so it started off pretty well. But I'll tell you, when you're running a channel like this and you're doing everything yourself, shooting the gun, shooting the video, sensitive to angle, sunlight, all this stuff going on, can't see the target when you're shooting. This is not horrible. My sense is also because of what I already observed on the steel, we'll go look at the steel momentarily, that the gun's shooting a little high. I need to heighten the sight, the rear sight, to make the rounds go lower. I may need to do that. Here's our 25 yard freestanding. I'm pleased with that. These are big, fat, hand loaded 180 grain lead cast bullets. So not horrible. Not the end of the year here. Maybe I'll put a mark here. We did this. We did that. Okay, we did this here. Bueno? Okay.
Here's a close-up of that hammer strike on that primer. That was a Winchester primer. I got a bad batch a few years ago. It's been CCI ever since.
Okay, guys, wind up kind of having an intermission between the 25 and the 50 yard mark here, just to discuss briefly the 1894 Winchester carbine trapper. Is this carbine right for you? There seems to be a resurgence going on right now in the firearms market and lever gun scene in favor of lever guns, with a lot of manufacturers, notably Henry, the rechristened Ruger, Marlin, operating via Ruger, Chiappa, Italian manufacturers, which is basically Chiappa manufacturing guns for a bunch of other companies like Cimarron, Taylor's, and so forth. I've been real impressed with the Henrys. However, I'm sort of a purist. I love Winchesters, old Winchesters, and old Marlins. I think the big question about this Winchester, is this right for you? is number one, do you want a top eject weapon? Because the Winchester 1886, 1892, 1894, 1873, 1866, going back to the original Henry that I think was manufactured by Winchester, but someone could clarify for me. These things have a top eject system. This allows for the entry of foreign debris and so forth. The other issue is that with the 1894 series, we famously have, as they say, the guts of the gun coming out of the bottom when you open this thing up, when you have to chamber a round. This gun was originally manufactured for the 30 Winchester centerfire smokeless cartridge, 1894. It has since been chambered in a number of pistol offerings. I'm a fan of 45 Colt, so you're going to see in the coming weeks and months here a bunch of 45 Colt videos because that's what I prefer and that's what I load for. So considerations for you. Famously, this is an angle eject. The spent cartridge flies off to the side rather than up, allowing for the mounting of a scope via the pre-drilled, well, you can't see it here because this Skinner sight is covering up. Receiver is tapped for a scope to receive a scope there, right? So, and I've had this scoped in the past. I'm just not a fan of scoping these Winchesters because of this top eject action. Famously, this is pre-safety, so there's no cross-bolt safety. There's no top tang safety, as we saw in the later years of the Winchester. Provides for a much cleaner presentation, but what there is as a response to the issue of no external safety is a rebounding hammer here, wherein this hammer, I don't know if you guys can see this in the light, it doesn't sit upon this firing pin actuator. It sits above it, almost in a half-cock safety, but it's a really weird feeling mechanism. I'm not a fan. When this thing falls, there's a lot of mush in there. I'm not a fan of that. It is just real awkward. The original Winchester action, as many of you know, had a half cock, and some of the manufacturers today, I believe Henry still incorporates a half cock. The earlier Marlins have a half cock safety before they went to a cross bolt safety, which still mars the weapon today. I don't know why Ruger continued that. Sorry, Ruger. But this thing is just mush. We'll demonstrate the ejection here momentarily, and then let's take a trigger pull and see what this thing is registering. Look, guys. High technology. We can do some tests here, see what this bad boy registers. Okay. Good Lord. Let's go. Okay, you guys see that? What does that say? 2 pounds. Is that right? 2 pounds, then 8.4. Am I reading this correctly? Let's try that again. See what we get on a hole here. I don't know if you can see that or not. My apologies. Lighting conditions are atrocious. This is the Sierra. Like much in California, it's atrocious. What we got there? 212.0 ounces. Well, that's a 2+ pound pull. Can we agree on that? Let's try that again. Delete. Oop. Okay. Zeroed out. What we get? Oh, 1.7. Let's try that again. Delete. Okay, zeroed out. Let's try this once more. See what we get. 413.1. Anyway, that seems like a 4-pound trigger pull. That feels like what it is. There's a lot of slop in this trigger. I'm not. Look at this. You guys see that? You see that? Okay, tremendous slop. My finger is on it. Actuate. Pull, 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 pull. That's a nasty trigger. I guess that could be reworked, but for me, I think that's part and parcel of the Angle Eject series, and that's something you have to countenance if you're going to get one of these guns. They're made in USA. They're Winchester. They say Winchester on the barrel. They're super duper cool. Okay, they're not made in Italy. They're not made in Japan. This is the real deal. Although I think they're owned by Olin Corp at this point, if I'm not mistaken. But whatever. They're super cool guns, and they're 16-inch barrels, which I like because they're really compact. But something to consider with all the options that are out there. Okay, guys, quick demo of that Angle Eject. See, it kind of topples out the top and falls all over. Don't blink or you'll miss it. We'll try one in slow-mo. Okay, guys, I'm at 50 yards, so we'll take a couple shots. I'm going to kneel this time for some stability. I'm going to go in reverse order. I'm going to hit the steel, then I'm going to go for the paper. Using my 180 grain fat boys here. This shooting, I got to go a little slower, in part because I've had these cases, this brass around forever. I bought a lot of 500 back in like 2006, and I've been using it, recycling it again and again and again over the years. When you're using low pressure powder, you can use this brass forever. It is tremendous savings to you as it is advisable for you to do this, and for a lot of folks in the firearm scene who are talking endlessly about SHTF. Well, loading your own and doing so with the same cases over and over and over again is a great way to prepare for the future and make sure that there's enough to go around. Okay, great. Using the small aperture here. That's a hit. Miss. That was a hit. I'm happy. All right, we're going for paper now, guys. 50 yards on paper. I'm definitely going to kneel here to see if I can tighten up the group from the first course of fire. Just 3 shots. Let's see where they go. Oop. That happens, guys. I got a lot of bad primers, so that happens. Bummer, dude. 1892 or 1894 action, top eject. One of the nice things is you can just feed around in from the top. I kind of dig that. Okay, you guys that handle shotguns a lot, pump action, you'll feel it at home. Okay. Okay, first course of fire. I don't know what the hell's going on here. There's obviously, that was that big dong. Pretty low, huh? Lower than where I was aiming. Looks like there was a second strike here. I don't know what all this is, spall maybe, and then I did a miss in here. However, I was sneaky. I already came out and checked this out. This is pretty sweet, guys. It's the second course of fire right here. This I'm pleased about because I was kneeling. So this was 25 yards. Man, it's hard to do all this when you're filming. And, oh, come on. Can I write hello? 25 yard. Okay. And this over here was my 50 yard. Which tells me a little bit of time on the apertures and those sights. This thing could be pretty on at 50 yards. I'm pleased. As usual, being winter, spring in the Sierra, the sun, the angles, the trees, the shadows are always horrific. We'll activate the bum cam again. Hopefully you guys can pick this up. But I'm not even going to laze it because it's 100 yards, more or less. Using that Eberly stock pack, and we're going to take a few shots. I was going to go for steel only, but I think it'll be interesting to see what we can do with that. Last few vids I've done out here, I've been shooting 22s, I believe. 22s are a real nuisance to be working with in brush country, but the 45 Colt is probably happiest in brush country. The only issue here is with a low velocity, low power powder like the 700X I'm shooting today. This is going to be a little challenging, but I've got a good stable platform. I think we'll have some contact, I hope. Okay, I'm going to be shooting for center mass on that B-27 target at 100 yards. Got some tree branches to deal with, but I'm not too worried about it with these big, stout 45 Long Colt rounds, 180 grain. They should plow right through, but we'll see what happens. Ooh, that is a mushy trigger, guys. If you want to pick up one of these carbines, you might want to get some work done. Okay, I'm going to go reset a camera and then we'll go for steel. Okay, guys, I went up to readjust the other camera and I was pretty pleased with that course of fire. Unfortunately, I threw one. We'll go look at it in a bit, but not bad for 100 yards on my hand loads, not having shot this thing in a year. What I'll do now is we'll load up again, 3 final shots on the steel, and see what I can accomplish here. Hope you guys can see the satisfying activity of these big fatties disappearing into that receiver. Levergun time, baby. Okay, steel at 100 yards with the big fat 180 grain hand loads. Miss. Oh. Miss. That's a bummer. Probably aiming too low. It's not how I like to end the video. I'm going to lose all my subscribers. I could never hit these targets. Okay. Well, I've got some tightening up to do. The next round of this carbine will be a nocturnal shoot because I've got this light on it, so I want to demo it to folks. I don't know if I'll do it tonight or maybe tomorrow. Come out when I'm freshened up a little bit. I need to tighten up these groups. Okay, so closing up part one of this demo at 100 yards. Quite pleased with, actually, except I threw one, I guess. You can see the earlier work here at the 25, the 50. I tightened it up once I stabilized, went down to a knee. Here's from more or less a prone type position. Unfortunately, as much as I might look over this whole target, I don't see any. I think I completely threw one, which is unfortunate. This had the makings of 100%, 100% of 2. I'm starting to lose my mind here. What I wanted to say was 100 yards. So 100 yards with 180 grain, hand loads. I'm having just jumped back on the rifle, maintaining a couple cameras running at once. I'm not too embarrassed by this. However, last go around here, demarcations were made from the 25, 50, 25. I want to say these were 25 and 50 as I recall, and completely through the 100. I don't have measurements for you right now. I'm gonna have to bring out my measuring tape, but these are not the gigantic rounds that Hickok 45 shoots at 100 yards. I think he shoots some little piggies and so forth, but give me a break. This is shooting through trees and mountain conditions here. I take pride in shooting these videos out of doors and in real natural conditions. So this is a range sort of, but it's also pretty wild. Can I just tell you about all the cursing that goes on off screen? Okay. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, okay? It helps the channel, it helps me. Please share the video. Please encourage people to enjoy the shooting sports and particularly lever guns. This video today featured the model 1894 Winchester Angle Eject chambered in 45 Long Colt. It was begun a little over a year ago in March of 2024. That video preview was released in November of 2024. You guys have been liking it and watching it. Thank you so much. So this concludes a more thorough review of this fantastic carbine. There will be a part 2, which is going to explore this light, the Surefire MV light with a Veltor mount on this little carbine. I think I'm going to do that tomorrow night because I'm pretty pooped right now. Anyway, as you guys know, if you watch this channel, God bless you and God bless America. Thank you very much.